Well, go on, everybody. Lennox here from Simple123 Trader. Welcome to the weekly playbook for January 10th to Friday, January 15th. Hope everybody's doing well and are safe. I'm going to go over all the futures with the currencies and some of the US indices. Okay, taking a look at Australian dollar first. This is the monthly time frame. I'll start on the monthly time frame just to kind of break it down a little bit and show you what's going on overall. So as you can see, we've been in quite a move to the upside in the last 3 months, just straight up from this support area here. We just had 3 straight months of upside, but you can see we're coming back down now. We're kind of losing a little bit of steam. This would have been our resistance level, and we've just broken through that resistance a little bit there and are pulling back on the monthly. So dropping down to the weekly time frame, again, you can see quite the push, puts us up into that area. However, this little push back here might just be a little blip in an otherwise continuation of a move to the upside. So we could get and see some gyration and movement sideways here before we continue to the upside one more time. Okay, even though we are at a resistance area, we could see something like this play out and we'll push back up. So this is in this week here coming, of course, we're just looking at one bar. Okay, so one bar is just going to be more likely a down move. So on the daily time frame, you can see that we are indeed in a little move to the downside. This could continue back to previous support resistance area here. We could see this further move down before we start to see another move back up again. Okay, so a little bit of weakness starting off with the Australian dollar in this session. Okay, let's take a look at Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, I predicted would get up into the close to 50,000, into the 40s at least. And you can see I made that call when it was around 27 or so. And let me go to the monthly. Okay, so it's been quite a move. And ever since it reached 27 area, 28 area, I was calling for 40, 45 to 50,000. And you can see we reached up in the 43,000 area. And big drop back now, big pullback. So is this it? Are we done? That's totally possible for at least a short term. We could again get some pullback back down to resistance before, we could see some violence in here, of course, and before we continue to the upside. But we could definitely see movements even taking us way back down to this level, somewhere in this area. We could come all the way back down. We could even come all the way back down to this level, and before we get a turnaround move back up. So again, that's looking long term, but in the short term, right now, big bar move back down for the weekly. So we could again continue down a little further. And on the daily, that will show us a little bit more of what's going on. On the daily, again, further move down. We could come back down into this area. We could even come back down into this area. And before we see a continuation bounce back to the upside. So again, a little bit of weakness and trepidation in Bitcoin going into this week. Okay, we'll take a look at crude oil starting with the monthly. And crude oil has been on quite a rampage to the upside, and we're getting right into resistance area right now. So this might be short-lived, but we could see price reaching up to this area as well in the coming months. Okay, so that's on the monthly. On the weekly time frame, again, we're pushing up towards possible resistance in this area. So there's room for this to go. I'm not seeing too much of a drawdown or drawback pullback at all in crude oil. It just looks very strong. So you may be a little bit of hesitation here, but we're going to still continue to the upside for crude oil. Okay, let's take a look at the Canadian dollar. And again, we'll start off on the monthly. Very, very strong. It's been very strong, but now we're seeing some red. Okay, so we got very close to resistance here. We might still have one more push if we go down to the lower time frame. Let's take a look. So on the weekly, very strong push to the upside here, and that's taking us up. So we could have one more push to the upside go. And let's see how this week will play out. And this is what I'm seeing here for this week. Certainly another push is definitely in the works. So if we breach this area, all bets are off, but I don't think we will. I think we'll bounce and continue one more time to the upside. So a little bit of weakness in the short term, but more strength in the long term for Canadian dollar. Okay, let's take a look at the US dollar. Now the US dollar has been in quite a funk and has moved down quite dramatically, but we have come and down to the support area and are bouncing at this point. So this entire move now could be retraced back up into this area with no problems at all. After that, where will it go? We could see further moves down in from here, but again, that's long term. So right now we're just concentrating on what's happening this week. So on the weekly, okay, we're getting a little bit of a bounce, and you can see it's starting off not too badly. So let's go to the daily. Will this bounce continue? So we've had quite a push down. Now we're looking to bounce, but we could get a little bit of a pullback before that bounces. Okay, so if we get a breach of this line that I just drew here to the upside, this is going to be looking strong, at least in the short term. We could get back up into this area, no problems on this move. Okay, so if we breach this area, of course, then we're going to have to wait out another turnaround. Okay, so a little bit of strength looks like in the US dollar going into this week. Let's take a look at the euro. And on the monthly as well. Okay, so euro also lots of strength, and we've pushed right up into resistance area up here, and further resistance at this level. We're right in that area. We just touched it at this point and are pulling back now. So opportunity now for some place to the downside looking likely. Let's go to the weekly. Yes, we are turning around. Are we done to this move? It's possible, but also likely that we could still see one more push to the upside. That's totally possible. But in the short term, we're going to be heading back down. Okay, so again, what I'm seeing here is a very strong push to this level, but we could see some decline back down to this level before we get a final push, if at all. And if not, if we don't breach this area going back up, then all bets are off and we're going to be heading down. But right now it looks like we could have one more push to the upside, but weakness in the short term, again, going into this week for the euro. Let's take a look at the Swiss. Okay, and the Swiss, similar type of dance. Okay, we breached this area, very strong to the upside. We have no resistance up here at all. And the key question is, are we done at this point? And are we heading back down? Similar to Canadian dollar, looks like maybe we have reached that peak, but it also looks like maybe we have not. And we could have one more push, but taking a good look at this, we might totally be done at this point. And yes, we get a push back up, but I don't see Swiss breaking this point. So we could get a push back up into this area before we continue back down. Or we could just be going sideways for all intents and purposes. But a little bit of weakness, again, short term for Swiss, and we could see further strength as the week goes on. Let's take a look at gold. Okay, so gold on the monthly, very, very strong recently. we got a nice pullback and then some moves to the upside in the last month, and now we're kind of getting a little bit of a lull again. So we've been in this channel here, and we breached it to the upside, but it looks like it was just a big fake out move, and now it's pulling back. So are we ready to push back out again, or are we going to be heading back down to this level is the question at this point. So on the daily time frame, we'll see that more clearly. And what it looks like is we're just retracing this move, and it looks like a legitimate turnaround for gold to the upside forthcoming. Okay, so a little bit of strength going to be happening in gold going into this week. Okay, let's take a look at the Japanese yen on the monthly. Okay, so this one has been, you can see, very choppy, but chopping to the upside very strongly. We have no resistance up here whatsoever, and we're now turning to the downside. So Japanese yen had a lot of strength before, but now it's turning. So again, we're inside of a channel, and it looks like if we breach this, we're heading down. Okay, so we're very close to that line, and on the daily, you can see again, if that line were there, we're breaching that line. So we might get a pullback, a retrace of this move before we get a continuation to the downside. So a little bit of weakness to strength in the short term, and then some further weakness in the Japanese yen going into the rest of the week. Let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar. So New Zealand and Aussie have been really strong, but they were very close to their resistance areas, and they have come into that area, and now are looking to have a little bit of a pullback. So on the weekly, again, we looks like we're at the top of this move and looking to drop, and so a little bit of pullback in the short term. So in the short term, I can see it move back up, just very short, very brief, and then a continuation to the downside. So that's the likelihood for New Zealand and the Aussie, of course. Okay, let's take a look at the Mexican peso. And Mexican peso on the monthly, we've reached the bottom and we pushed back up, but it looks like we're done and might be done at this point, heading back down again. So on the weekly, you can see that this has been a very strong support resistance area. We reached that area. What I'm seeing here is just a slight pullback. We could come back down to this area before we get a bounce one more time to the upside. So some weakness in the Mexican peso going into this week. You can see that we're indeed heading down. We could come back down into this area before we go again. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing. A little bit of weakness in Mexican peso. Let's take a look at the British pound. And British pound, lots of strength in the British pound, but it too is also having a little bit of a brief respite here. And we were very close to the resistance area here. We still have another resistance here, so we could indeed push one more time to the upside. But right now, this week, it looks like we're going into a little bit of a lull, and rightfully so, because we just came through a very strong resistance area, and we could be pulled back into it before we continue back up. So some weakness in the British pound in the short term will give you some opportunities for some pips. So on the daily, you can see we are dropping to the downside. Again, we could come back down into this area before we get another bounce to the upside. Okay, and let's take a look at silver. On the monthly, also been in line with the gold, big push to the upside. Now we're getting a little turn back down, and we are at a very strong resistance support area right here, and that's why we're getting that little bit of a lull. On the weekly, again, you can see similar to gold, we were in this channel, and that could be a triangle like that as well, and we moved up and really broke through that level, but now we're pulling back into it. So how far down are we going to come? I think we're just retracing this move, but so we could come back into this mess here before we go again. So on the daily, again, a retrace of this move, is what's going on here, and we could see a turnaround imminently, although it looks very weak at this point. So I can see this dropping one more time, some weakness first, so we could come back down here before we push back up. Okay, so a little bit of weakness in silver. Okay, well, let's take a look at the Russell 2000, and lots of strength in the Russell 2000. There's nothing here for you to come to look at with resistance. It's just been very strong. This is the monthly time frame, and this move has lots of legs to go still. So weekly, very strong. Daily, very strong. So from here, it's looking like we still have lots of move. We could come back down here first, a little bit of weakness first, but eventually continued strength into the week. The US 30, similar type of move, very strong to the upside. Not seeing much resistance up here. So continued strength. We, of course, in the short term, we could see a little bit of a pullback, but continued strength in the Dow. Let's take a look at the US S&P 500, same story, very strong to the upside on the weekly, still very strong on the daily. Again, we could see some slight pullback here in the beginning of the week, but continued movements to the upside is forthcoming. Okay, and last but not least, well, you get the US technology section, and very strong to the upside as well. You can see that there's no red candle up here. It's just very, very strong, and still lots of strength going to the upside. So again, we could get a little bit of a pullback, but it's not looking too much like it's going to do that. More strength to the upside. So looking like a banner week shaping up for the U.S. stock market, and even amongst the volatility going on in the United States and so forth, people are still confident and giving hope to the economy turning around with vaccinations and all that kind of stuff. So the charts tell us all. The charts tell us all what's going on. It's the mirror of what's going on in the economy, and everything right now is looking pretty strong overall. Profitable trading to everyone. Be safe. I'm done now. Thank you.